Hi there, my name is Jennifer Roskamp, also known as the Intentional Mom, also known as the creator of the money saving or money management coaching program called Thriving on a Dime. That program has been around now. We're just about to hit our two-year anniversary. So I am super excited to continue helping people with their money over there, and I'm excited to be sharing some of these things with you today because we're going to be talking about all week. I'm going to be here doing some videos, and I'm going to be talking about making peace with your finances during uncertain times, because let's be realistic here. We are kind of in uncertain times, right? So like, what exactly is going to happen to the economy? How soon things are going to go back to normal, and is there just going to be a new normal after that? Like, is normal like forever changed? When are things going to start bouncing back? How many people are going to lose their jobs? When I surveyed my audience, I heard from people that over 80% were actually concerned about their finances, like their finances going forward, like the future of their finances. And then over 60% of those people said that they were already feeling the negative effects of the uncertainty of the times we're living in and the impact of that on their finances. So a lot of people are already feeling this in a very real way. And that's why I'm excited to be sharing some thoughts with you here all week this week. So we're going to be talking about how to make peace with your finances during these uncertain times. So today we're going to talk about mindset. We're going to get your mindset in the right place, because it's probably pretty logical that your mind feels a little bit discombobulated right now, right? Like your thoughts and what you thought was happening with your money, or where you thought you were going, or things like that are probably all kind of just jumbled up, right? It kind of feels a little bit like when something like this happens, it kind of feels a little bit like the rug has been pulled out from under you and you kind of need to find new ground to stand upon. So that's what we're going to do with the mindset. And then tomorrow and Wednesday, I'm going to give you some targeted skills to do right now that is going to help you get on probably a healthier path. When we're in uncertain times like this, kind of the thought that I think a lot of people have, which is, I'm doing okay. I'm paying the bills. Things are a little bit tighter than maybe I would like them to be, but it's okay for now. I know I could probably manage my money better, and I should get to that someday. Like, the reality of where we are now is that someday is actually here. Like, we can't just put it off until someday anymore. And that's why I think 80% or more, it's more than 80% of the people I asked, how stable or how certain do you feel about your finances when you look forward? And that's why I think 80% of them said, I'm not real sure at all. Like, I feel uneasy. And so the things people are feeling is things like fear and anxiety and uncertainty, and just kind of like just not knowing what to do. Like, what do I do now? I think we can kind of all agree that things are different, right? I think that's not saying anything that we don't already know and feel. But the truth is that we have to actually take action, right? Unless we want to just ride the ship downward, which we don't even know where the end point is, right? Like, we don't know. That's one thing when you go through a challenge and you know how long you're going to be in the midst of a challenge, right? So I like to think about it like, so what we need, right, during a time like this is endurance. So if you think about things that typically need endurance, you might think of like running a marathon. I'm a runner, right? But the thing about that, I've never done a marathon, but I do typically do every year or every other year, I do typically do a 15.5 mile race, and every year in my hometown. And that is a huge ordeal for me. I am not a distance runner. There's a lot of behind why I do that. I basically do it for a challenge and to prove to myself that I can do hard things. But the thing about that is as much as it's a struggle while I'm in the midst of it, at least I can count down to the end, right? Typically around mile 11, mile 12 is kind of where I start to fall apart. Like, that's where it starts to get really messy for me. And I think it's kind of always a mind game, but I think it really becomes a mind game at that point. But a lot of what helps me overcome and just kind of push through is the fact that I know I only have 3 miles or 4 miles or so left. And that's a lot of what carries me through. And we don't have that kind of end point in mind here. We don't know where the end is going to be. And so that makes endurance a little bit of a different thing. That makes seeing this thing through and just kind of, making it through every day a little bit more complex because we don't know exactly what to prepare for. All we know is that we have to prepare, and we probably can all agree on that. So we're going to be talking about mindset today. Then Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm going to talk about some targeted skills, things you can do right now to start managing your money probably better than you are right now. And then on Thursday and Friday, I'm going to talk about creating a smarter new normal, because honestly, I think our normal is going to be a new normal. I don't know that things are ever going to go. And if you listen to other people too, I don't know that things are ever going to go back to exactly the way they were before. So I think the reality that we're all going to face is that we have to have a new normal. And that's going to be what we talk about on Thursday and Friday. Okay. So for today, I'm going to talk to you about mindset. And by the way, if you don't have, I have a couple of worksheets, not one today, but I have a worksheet to go with, I think Tuesday and maybe Thursday with what I'm going to be talking about here. So if you don't have, you have to actually sign up to get those worksheets. I will post the link to where you can do that right here with this video as soon as I get done. So make sure you have those, because that will greatly help with what I'm going to have you do those days. So make sure that you do that. But let's talk about mindset today. So before we can make change in any sort of way, right? You probably know this in life already. You want to lose weight. You want to spend your money better. You want to create new good habits. You want to start exercising more. You want to start drinking more water. You want to start having better, more intentional relationships with your kids. Like all of these things that we might have as goals, it starts with your mind first, right? In your mind, you say, I really need to lose about 10 pounds. Or, I really would feel better if I exercised every day. Or I know I'm not drinking enough water. Or I know my diet isn't that great. Or I feel like I never have any time to spend with my kids. I know I need to get better at that, right? So it all starts with your mind. Before we start changing the things we do or start doing things differently, start forming new habits, those kinds of things, it starts with a mindset. And that's why we need to start here. It starts with what's in your mind. You have to decide in your mind first that you want change, need change, could benefit from these changes, that kind of thing, okay? So we're going to start today by kind of shifting your mindset. And I'm going to give you some things to do that's going to help you kind of do that a little bit more automatically. So I think prior to all of this, quarantining and job layoffs and people not working and all of that in response to this virus, prior to that, I think we could kind of just a little bit maybe bury our head in the sand a little bit, right? We didn't have to monitor our spending maybe quite so closely as we do now. But now we need to do that. And so we need to kind of put up some safeguards. So if we're kind of agreeing that really in order to withstand, again, we don't know how long, right? We don't know exactly what the economy is going to look like when we come out of all this. And so I think we could all agree that really we need to just start being a little bit more proactive in how we spend and don't spend our money, right? So if that's what we're going to try to do, we need to kind of put up some boundaries or some blinders on so that we can stay the path. So we have to make up our mind that I need to handle my money better, right? I need to make some changes so that I'm not as uneasy or fearful or anxious about whether or not I'm going to be able to afford to pay the bills, right? So right now you might say, well, I could afford to pay the bills next month and 2 months from now, but what if our economy, what if you are still feeling, and maybe what if you aren't now, but what if in 2 months from now you start feeling the effects of this? And 6 months from now, it lasts up to 6 months from now. Do you have what you need to withstand 6 months of tight finances due to whatever that might look like for you? That's the reality that a lot of us are facing. So it's one thing to be able to say, you know what, I'll be okay for the next month or two, but will you be okay for 6 months from now? And it just might be that you have to be okay 6 months from now or even longer. I mean, I don't know, and nobody really knows what this is going to be like for the future. So at this point, we kind of just have to prepare for an unsure and indefinite amount of time that we're going to have to make these changes into the future, right? That's the reality. We kind of just have to prepare for the worst is kind of what we have to do, okay? So in order to do that, the best way to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in any one thing. You want to lose weight, you want to eat better, you want to do whatever, right? What happens when you want to lose weight? You try to get the junk food out of the house. You try to only make healthy meals rather than, make the unhealthy ones, and then just sit there and stare at it and expect that you're not going to be tempted to eat it, right? Same thing with exercise, right? You're going to join a gym, or you're going to get some walking shoes, or you're going to make a plan to go outside and walk around, or whatever it might be. Like, you put some things into motion to actually make this happen. And so what you're really doing is you're making it easier to stay on your path. And that's what we need to do here too, right? We need to stay on our path. There's still going to be all of this stuff going on around us. You're still going to have so many opportunities, all the same opportunities, or most of the same opportunities that were there for you before to buy things and spend money. They're likely still going to be there. All of those opportunities are still going to be there. But how do we if what we need to do is shift our mindset and say, we need to be a little bit smarter, we need to be a little bit more proactive, we need to plan for kind of the worst case scenario. And I know I need to stay in my own lane to do that. I know I need to put some blinders on to do that. What does that mean? How can I do that? Okay. So I have a couple of ideas for how you can have your spending. I'm not saying all spending is bad. That's not what I'm here to say. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as the week goes on. Like, how do I know, or what does it mean? How do I know if I should spend money? I guess we're going to kind of address that. So I'm not saying that all spending is bad, but what I really want for everybody and for you is to have intentional spending more now than ever before. That's always been my goal for people. Is it's okay to spend money, but I just want you to be aware of where your money is going. And I want you to spend it with intention. I want you to be able to say, you know what? I do want my money to go there. I am okay with spending that money on this thing over here, right? So that, but what I don't want for people in general, and especially now, is for your money to just kind of be leaking out to places that you don't know where that is, right? We need to fill up all those holes right now. That's really important to do, okay? So we need to plug up all those holes, and we need to kind of drown out the noise so that we can stay in our own lane. We need to put our blinders on. We need to put our boundaries up so that we can stay in our own lane, okay? That's what you need to do for a mindset now. You need to make the mindset shift and say, I need to manage my money better. I need to be more intentional on where my money is going. And I need to kind of just start thinking about it maybe more than I ever have, right? Start thinking about where you're spending money. And I know that I need to do some things to make it easier for myself to be a little bit smarter and even more intentional than I was maybe before with how I spend my money, okay? So here are just a couple of ways, kind of all tied in together, that you can do that. How can you best stay in your own lane right now? Now, there are a bunch of other things you can do, but I find these to be pretty powerful. As I've been helping people with money now for more than 5 years, this is the things that I find to be most helpful. When I give people these 3 short things and small things to do, they report back and say, you know what, that was really helpful. Like, it sounded a little bit painful and it seemed like a small thing, but the small things and the small savings really added up. So that's why I want to give you specifically these 3 things, okay? The first thing that I want you to do, again, to get your mindset in the right place and to say, I need to stay in my own lane, I need to be a little bit smarter, I need to be a little bit more intentional, I want you to unsubscribe from 3 or more of your favorite stores' emails, right? You get these stores' emails and they say, great prices, sales, clearance, blowout, all of these things, and they just get into your mind and they tempt you to spend money. And maybe under normal circumstances, it's kind of okay, right? Maybe it would be better under normal circumstances if you weren't getting kind of snared in by those things as often. But especially now, it's really important that you not get snared in to spend money in places that you really shouldn't be spending it now. Again, assuming that we're going to kind of prepare for possibly a long haul here of our income being even more precious to us than it has been at other times. So unsubscribe from your 3 favorite stores emails. You'll still know how to go to shop there. I'm just saying unsubscribe from those 3 favorite stores emails so that you're not tempted to buy things, okay? The next part that's kind of closely related to that is to avoid your favorite websites. Again, if you really need to buy something from X, Y, or Z, you can still go there, but don't go there just to browse. And another thing I would say here, something that I can fall into the trap of pretty easily, is I love like deal websites where I can go to find amazing deals, right? Sometimes I might be saving 80% on something, right? And those are all good things, but I'm not sure they're good things right now. And I know for certain, for you, and I know for certain these are not good things for me right now. I want to be super conscious, super aware, super intentional with my spending. And I don't want to get tripped up by things I don't need right now. And I know that when I'm tempted, when I see these things, it's really easy to get tripped up by them. So therefore, I need to limit my exposure to these things. I need to limit the amount of opportunities I have to actually see these things. So for me, this would also include going to websites where they list all the awesome deals, right? Save on this at Kohl's. There's a great sale at Target. Save on, this at Walmart. Check out these latest things on Amazon, daily deals and all that. All of that stuff is great. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things. But I am saying that right now, if we're working on mindset and staying the course and kind of preparing for a new normal, we need to step back and commit to not spending any extraneous money right now. That's really what we need to do, because we don't know how it's going to shake out, right? And I would argue that for this week here, while we're going to be taking on this stuff, and I'm going to be leading you through this challenge of and giving you, things to do to make peace with your finances during these uncertain times. I want you to commit to at least this week not spending any extraneous money, because we're going to need to be kind of creating a starting point, and we're going to start doing that tomorrow. But in order for us to kind of start with a starting point so we can move forward and come up with this plan for a new normal, I need to not have you spending all of this extra money that's going to interfere with what we're doing this week. So even if only for this week, I want you to commit to no unnecessary spending this week, okay? And a great way to do that is to unsubscribe from your favorite store's emails, to avoid your favorite websites where you tend to spend money, and just anytime you're gonna click on that buy button or whatever, I want you to just hear my voice saying, for this week only, I'm not supposed to spend any money. So before you just automatically hit that button, just hear my voice saying, okay, I need to come up with a plan. I need to come up with a strategy, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. In order for me to come up with that plan and that strategy, I'm going to have to be able to take an inventory of where I am right now. And that means I can't constantly have my inventory changing. So for this week, and maybe going forward, but for this week, I'm not going to be spending any of this stuff. So I'm not going to buy this right now. Okay. That's really the commitment that I need from you for your mindset to get in the right place for today, and for us, or for this week, and for us to be able to do the work that we need to do this week, okay? A really great bonus activity that you can do here. Again, keeping in mind that we have to work on our mindset, and we have to become, now more than ever, more mindful of where we're spending money. And I want to challenge you. This is kind of the challenge. So first, you're making the commitment to not spending any extra money. You're going to think about unsubscribing, and hopefully unsubscribe from those favorite stores emails, and kind of stop spending and perusing on websites and other things where you normally spend money. But this is the challenge. So you're going to do those things, but this is kind of the extra credit challenge. A really great thing that's going to help you adapt to this new normal is to define what a want is in your mind and what is a need. Because usually when we're spending the extraneous money, I'm not talking about your rent, I'm not talking about your mortgage, I'm not talking about any of those bills that we all have that are just part of a way of life, right? We have to eat, all that stuff. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the spending that you do that's more just the things that you choose. All right. So the things that we choose, we're either usually buying because it's something we want or it's something we need. But I will say it's easy for those lines to get blurred. It's really easy for us to maybe at first thought to say, you know what, this is a need when it really is a want. And so it's really helpful for the extra credit challenge for today. It's really helpful to come up with, what does a want mean and what does a need mean? And what do those things tend to look like? What are the things that I tend to think in my mind when I'm buying something that tells me it's a want? And what are the things that I tend to think or say to myself when it truly is a need? So let me just give you an example. For instance, it's usually pretty easy to define something as a want if it's not something you've done any research on, right? You haven't price shopped, you haven't read reviews about it, you haven't just looked around for the best price, any of that. You haven't done any of that researchy type stuff. That's usually a pretty good indication that it's not a calculated need. And another way to kind of clue you in that it's not a need, but it tends to fall more in the want category, is if you didn't plan on buying that item today when you woke up or last night when you went to bed, it's probably something that is more of an impulse buy, right? You saw something, you saw something in a store, you saw something online, you saw something even just that your friend had or was wearing on Facebook, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that it's an actual product. It could just be that you saw something online or out in the real world that triggered you to think about something, and now I'm going to go buy that thing, right? But if you didn't go to bed last night, or you didn't wake up this morning saying, I'm going to buy that new shirt, or I'm going to buy that new throw blanket, or I'm going to buy that whatever it is, if you didn't wake up and say those things, it's probably more of an impulse buy. And more times than not, an impulse buy is a want. Okay, so I've kind of, according to my own definitions and the conversations I have in my own head, I've kind of given you some clues to how in my mind a want or a need looks, and some of the triggers that I look for when I'm saying, all right, is this really a want or is it a need? And if it's a want, should I be buying it right now, right? Because I'm not saying all wants are bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy things that are wants. But I just want you to remember what we said way back in the beginning. I just want you to be intentional and spend money where you intend. Always, but especially right now, because we need to reel it in, because we kind of need to prepare for uncertain. We are living in uncertain times that really are quite unprecedented. And so we need to just, adhere to that. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to change some of the ways that we're doing things. So those are my challenges to you today, is to commit to no unnecessary spending this week. Because we want to be able to take an inventory and kind of develop a starting ground so that we can then turn around on the last couple of days and talk about creating a smarter new normal, right? Because we're kind of starting with mindset, then we're working on skills, then we're working with how do I carry these skills into the future, and what should the future kind of look like for me, and how can I make the future for myself better with my finances, because this is where we are now, right? But in order to do that, I need you to commit to no unnecessary spending this week and maybe beyond. I need you to do some things like I suggested, or your own, that are going to make it easier for you, right? The unsubscribing from the store's emails and not shopping on websites, that was just my suggestion to make it easier for yourself to not spend money unnecessarily this week. That might look totally different for you, and you might come up with your own things. Those were just my ideas. But I need you to, number one, commit to no unnecessary spending this week. And if you want the extra credit challenge, if you really want to take it to the next level, it would be to spend some time thinking about what a want is and what a need is, and kind of how that looks in your life. What are you thinking and doing before you buy something that's a want, and what are you thinking and doing before you buy something that is a need? Okay, so that is your assignments for today. And then again, so the next 2 days, we're going to spend talking about some skills. I'm going to give you some skills that you can use to do this, and then, or to kind of weather the uncertain times. And then the last 2 days, we're going to talk about what a new normal could look like, and probably should look like, because for all of us, it's probably a reality that we are going to have a new normal. So we need to spend some time talking about that. Okay. So again, if you have not downloaded or gotten on the list to download the worksheets that go along with what I'm talking about here this week, make sure that you do that. I will post a link here with this video where you can sign up to do that, so you can get a couple. I think it's 2 worksheets I have to go along with this, and I think the first one is tomorrow. So make sure that you do that right up at the top of this video. I will stick it up there right now when I am done. Okay. All right. So today is all about mindset. We have to adopt a new mindset, and it's okay. We can do that, right? But the mindset must come first. Before we can have new actions, we have to have a new mindset. And that's why we're starting there today. Okay. So today's all about mindset. I will see you tomorrow.